Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. So today we're going to talk about why strong and independent women tend to not do well in relationships, or why some don't do well, or why we fall for the gumball guy. So first, if you're new to this, the gumball guy is an attention-seeking guy where everything really is about him. So it's exciting to date him at first because he's high on all the attention and the excitement of a new relationship. But then as the excitement wears off and as the relationship levels out, that leveling out means the intensity isn't there. And so he is essentially bored with himself. So the stimulation that came from the beginning intense part of the relationship is no longer there, which makes him start to feel insecure. And he will pull away, not from you, but he will pull away emotionally because he's not feeling the same about himself. And so the journey with Gumball Love is to help you see when you're dating somebody like that versus when there is an actual issue with connection or what's going on. Did we have a miscommunication? Because when you're dealing with someone that may be the case, they can talk about it and come, well, I thought when you did this, this is what happened. No, this is actually what I was thinking. And then you can come to an understanding. But when you are with a gumball guy who's seeking that sugar high all the time, those conversations aren't productive. They seem to go nowhere. They seem to make you feel like you're bad at relationships, right? So you can be, so then the question, so I want to always give that intro so you can be reminded of what Gumball Love is, because I want to make sure we're always remembering that definition. Sometimes I get too far into this and just feel like everybody knows, but if this is the first podcast you're listening to, that is essentially what Gumball Love is. It's the love of the high or the rush of the adoration, the love of the infatuation period. And the true connection that comes over time is when we are healthy, when we are secure in ourselves, when we are really enjoying the other person for who they are. Even when the infatuation starts to wane, there's a depth that starts to happen after that. Yes, we love that excitement and it's fun and the pheromones and the endorphins are releasing, but when we have security and when we know that we are secure in our relationship, we enjoy the other part. It's like a new job. Yeah, it's fun to be the new person and you have this honeymoon period, but it's also nice to know like where to find those documents in that one folder, and you log into this system and you're a well-oiled machine and you know everybody and you start to build those connections. And then there's a comfort, right? When you are established in your company, you know everybody and you feel good and you feel like it's like, okay, this is my routine. You can settle into a routine at work where then you're not feeling like the new person. So there's excitement in the new opportunity and new company and okay, this is all the products or whatever it is that you're doing at work. But at the end of the day, a lot of us, we do like to settle into that routine because we like things that are, we like to know what to expect. We like to have that sense of peace. And that's what we should be looking forward to in relationships, enjoying the beginning part, but also it should feel natural for that to kind of, I don't want to say wind down, but it does level out, but it doesn't become bad. It's not going down. It's smooth. It becomes smooth waters, like we've talked about in other podcasts. So the reason strong and independent women struggle with this is because we are attracted to gumball guys for a lot of different reasons. Because of either our fathers that were unavailable that are like gumball guys, or because of a bad first boyfriend or a first boyfriend that caused a lot of, or caused a pattern to happen, right? So if you've dated a guy, this pattern started, and then you're like, man, I've coached women. I'm like, are your parents still married or divorced or what happened? Are you dating your father over and over again? And they'll be like, no, my parents have been married for 30 years. What was your first boyfriend like? At some point, a pattern started where we started seeking men that are gumball guys that love the intensity, and when it wears off, they pull away. But when they pull away, we think it's us. We don't understand what's going on. So then we start to chase them. And in the process of that chase, we lose our identity. And this cycle will repeat over and over again. Or if you stay with a guy, a lot of times women are dating the same guy on and off. We keep going back and forth because when there's space in between, like, you go through that thing where you're going to block each other, but you're not really blocking each other and you're going to be contacting each other again. It's like you start to realize when you really look at it, there's a pattern here that we're great. I call this the good, bad, and ugly. Things are good, then they start to get bad, then they get really ugly. Then there's a break. Then that break makes you miss him. He misses you. One of you reaches out. Bam, it's back. It's all intense again. And this is it's just like a heartbeat, like that spike and then drop and then spike and then drop and spike and then drop. And you're looking for smooth waters because the whole happily ever after fairy tale myth gives us the illusion that the riding off into the sunset is that lovely wonderland that is perfectly smooth and there's no problems. And so we have this illusion, but you know what we think when we're hitting that peak, that spike? We think it's going to be up there all the time. And that's fantasy land. And fantasy land is not sustainable. So, but also the bottom part is not sustainable either, right? The fighting, the anger. So then you're like, where is the center? Well, the center is the place where the gumball guy is not satisfied. He wants those extremes. He's riding those highs and lows because the intensity is what makes him feel. Where a healthy person is not looking to feel. They are looking to be. Not that you don't feel, but they want to just be and do life and not always be craving a feeling, but that when they're leveled out, they're just living life. So two people are living their lives together and experiencing. We're just going to be together. We don't have to always be feeling these extremes. Okay? So when you've developed a pattern with a gumball guy or a series of gumball guys, you can still be good at your job, good at managing your finances. However, when you've gone through this pattern with these guys, that becomes your life of pursuing him, wondering what's going to happen. I spent years doing this with guys. I have so much experience doing this exact pattern. This is why I teach this, because no matter where you are, all my girls that I coach are just like, oh my God, how do you know this? How do you know that's what I'm thinking right now? Because I've been there so many times. But the difference between you and me is each time I was there, I obsessed about it and researched it and journaled it. And then once I got through it, then I went back through it again. And I've literally committed my life to understanding all of the nuances. In fact, inside the Back to You Academy for the past few months, every single girl's story, I look at all of the pieces, all of the, if every single part of her journey was like a dot on a map, I'm looking at that dot going, okay, what makes someone be there? What's there? Because every one of your stories does not look exactly like mine. For sure, everyone's is so different, yet there are common threads, there are common patterns. And so I'm spending my life devoted to this work so that we can be mindful of when this is happening. Because the point of this podcast today is to share with you that when we are chasing this, well, let me take a step back. When you don't understand that you're going through these highs and lows with him and you're repeating this pattern, it's in the lows that you're searching for, or you're asking, what happened to the high? What happened? We were here. We were way up here. And now we're way down here. And what did I do? What happened to get us here? I'm so sad. I miss this. And so when you're at the low, you're obsessing about what happened? Why aren't we up there anymore? I want to get there. But I'll tell you what, looking way up at that mountaintop, wondering, dreaming, obsessing, I can't tell you how many times I would go to work, but I will tell you that many jobs over the years suffered because even though I was good at the job, I wasn't great at it because there was always some guy taking my energy, taking my focus, taking that I'm moving my arm like a train. Like I always knew that I had the talent and the skill and the ability to stay steady and really grab onto a job or career and do really well. But it was like, I remember journaling with one guy, he would pull my center off and I never was feeling balanced. And no wonder, because I was riding this roller coaster, but at the time I didn't understand that's what was happening. So yes, I was strong. Man, we're strong. We're so strong to be able to date guys like this and then also manage your life. So if you're managing your life, if you're looking around and you have an apartment or a house and you're taking care of a dog or a cat, if you have kids, if you're a mom doing this, look how strong you are. Look how much you can do, even when there's someone draining you. It's pretty remarkable. And think how much more you could do without it draining you. So look at me as an example. I was in Nebraska dating some guy, draining me. I had this dream and this idea about Gumball Love. I was actually creating it and had yellow Post-it notes all over my office. And I remember him walking in and looking at what I was creating and actually accused me of, or he didn't really accuse me, but he said, who told you this? Who came up with this idea? And I was like, I did. And he was like, you did this? I just will never forget the shock on his face when I walked him through the Gumball Love formula. And he was in disbelief that I did it. And it wasn't that he didn't believe that I could do it, but it was just like, whoa, this is really impressive. And it was like, I'm onto something. So even when I was with him trying to pretend like he wasn't a gumball guy, actually, he was the quiet guy. So I was learning in that period that quiet guy doesn't mean nice guy. So it took me a while, but I didn't see how much he was draining me until later, but I was still creating. But then when I got rid of him, I then found the energy and the ability to convince my boss to relocate me to New York City. And this happened just 6 years ago. So just the very beginning of really me deciding to have the life that I want versus the life that I thought I should have according to everyone else. Because when you're living anywhere, I don't care where you are, and you say you're moving to New York City, most people think you're nuts because it's hard to live here. There's so many people. Why do you want to live here? There's so many people. Everyone thinks it's a bad idea but everyone that's moved here understands why they moved here, and everyone gets you here. Because if you want to live in New York City and you think about living in New York City, you're supposed to live in New York City. I don't know what it is about this place, but I was talking to my girlfriend. She was like, New York just kind of gets you like, you get here and you're like, my dreams can come true. There's so much inspiration. There's energy. I wanted to be in it, but I had to let go. So as soon as I let go of that, I was finally able, then everything started. I went to conferences. I started investing in this idea. I started thinking about putting it on social media. I started connecting with like-minded people. And that's a whole nother podcast. But I started, you know what I started doing? I started figuring out who I was for the first time. And now that I actually say this out loud, it's like, wow, I've only been at this. I've been at this for about 10 years from the inception, but it's like I started from the beginning. So, which sounds stupid, but it's like, even though I had the concept of Gumball love and attention-seeking men, I was still at the very beginning when some guy just flippantly said every time he puts in a quarter, you give him a gumball. Stop giving him gumballs. That was all I went on. So it was like step 1, 10 years ago. I'm at the library studying relationships, intimacy. What does this mean? Going to therapy, figuring it all out. And so actually I'm doing this timeline out loud with you. So basically for the first 4 years, it was like figuring this out, yet not really having confidence, because what I'm trying to get to is that when we feel like we are strong and independent, yes, but you can be strong and independent, but you really don't know who you are. Does that make sense? Like, I can be strong, I can do a job, I can make money, and I kind of wish that I wouldn't have been able to do that without knowing my worth and knowing myself, because it, even for me, gave me a false sense of, well, what's going on here? Why can't I date guys and be confident in that area? Like, I am a confident person, but really I wasn't. I had skills. I could do a job. I could make money. So essentially you can create the life that on paper looks good. So strength and independence can create what's good on paper, but self-worth and true confidence is a whole different ballgame that really, it's like when you're back there 10 years ago, I couldn't measure that. And I didn't know how to measure it. So that's what I'm here to help you do, is teach you how to measure. Am I really confident? Do I really know my worth? How do you do that? Because knowing yourself, knowing your worth and value is the key to knowing when you've met the person you're supposed to spend your life with. When you don't know yourself and you don't have real confidence, you're going to be constantly fooled by knockoff guys. They look good, they sound good, but they're not the real thing. So how do you identify that or know when you haven't found it yet? Some of us have to come to terms with that person has not come into your life yet. You didn't miss him. He's not here yet. So when we keep going back to the question, why do strong, independent women have a hard time in relationships? It's because they're basing their strength and independence and they're looking at the fruit of that. But the fruit of your strength and your independence does not equal emotional strength and self-worth, self-confidence, and knowing yourself. Because when you know yourself, you also know when other people know you. So what I mean by that is when you're dating, when you know who you are, you're going to be able to see when other people know who you are. Does that make sense? Because I just coached a client that she came to the end of her relationship and she realized, man, when we're at the museum and I'm showing you why I like this piece of artwork, you totally aren't even here. You're not even paying attention. You don't even understand that I'm inspired. You're not even connected to me. You're somewhere else, but you're not really here. You don't really know me. You're not present with me. So getting to the end of a relationship after years of investment and going, oh my gosh, the only reason she could see it is because even though her, what am I trying to say? Like, even though she was in the bad relationship, she still decided, okay, I know this relationship is bad, but I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in myself while I'm in the bad relationship. And what happened is she built up enough strength during the mess to then see who she was, and then she could see that he didn't see her. Does that make sense? Once you see who you are, you will see who cannot see you. So the whole goal, if I'm strong and I'm independent, but I'm not having success in relationships, it's because you don't really know who you are. Like, think about it. You don't even know yourself. Or what you do know, you don't like. You don't like it. And why? It's like, ugh, that's a gross question to ask. Like, I don't like myself. What is it that I don't like? So then you start digging around in that a little bit. Like, okay, what? So when you don't like yourself, we date people that numb that feeling. So this is when some people will say, well, Melissa, am I the Gumball girl? If you're dating somebody you know is wrong for you, but it gets you through the day, it numbs the feeling of not liking yourself, not knowing yourself, then yes, you become a Gumball girl, because we're using short-term fixes versus looking at the long-term. I know this is deep stuff, but I've had to make a decision about my content. You're not ready for me until you're ready for the deep stuff, because I don't do superficial very well. But this is why I'm strong and I'm independent. I do a great job. Yes, but do you really like yourself? I can sell stuff all day long, but have you ever had a really big success and it still felt like it was like exciting for a second, and then you went right back to feeling the way you did, even when you really needed the success? Maybe you got a bonus, maybe you got a sale, maybe something really great happened, but it's because that's not what fulfills you. That's not what makes you feel good about yourself. Successes, tangible items, money, it doesn't make us happy. It's not fulfilling. So what's fulfilling? Fulfilling is so many things, but truly knowing who you are and knowing your worth and value, it's like, what does that even mean? It means that you take an interest in yourself. It means that you look at things that you really want to do. What do you really want to do? Do you like, I'll give you an example. When I first I wanted to be in New York, but it's like, okay, now you're in New York. So now what? I can still stay in my apartment like all day long every day, because I work from home and I do this from home. So I could really be in New York and then not really be here. So then I had to, I signed up for a writing class, and then that got me to starting writing more on social media, writing more. That built the academy. So I had a writing coach for a while when I first started. Then I was going to writing classes. I started going to personal development seminars. I went to two that I went to Chalene Johnson's Smart Success and her Marketing Impact Academy. So what was Smart Success? Smart Success was about, okay, now that I've started this new lifestyle, and I actually signed up for the course right before I left Nebraska and came to New York. And it's like, now that I'm starting this new lifestyle, like, what are my goals? What are my aspirations? What do I really want to do? And this is the beginning of just asking yourself, what are your goals? Most people don't have their goals written down because they aren't taking an interest in their own life. And I really want you to, like Gary Vaynerchuk says, go to a retirement home and look at people in there to inspire yourself to get busy right now. because we can spend so much time focused on a dude, and then it's like our whole life can go by. Like that, a guy is not going to make our dreams come true, and it's not going to make you like yourself. Just because you find some guy you could find a guy that would be in a relationship with you. I just had a guy message me on Facebook, "You have a beautiful smile." It's like, I'm sure I could start talking to that guy, but I know that guy has taken no time to even know who I am. One, he's just messaging people on Facebook randomly. So it shows me he doesn't value himself, because someone who values themselves says, "Hey, I noticed we have a mutual friend, so-and-so, and I just wanted to reach out to you. I love what you're doing with Gumball Love, and I think that's super interesting. I'd love to get to know you better." Something. Hey, dude, introduce yourself like a man. Don't just say, "You have a beautiful smile. Happy Sunday." It's like, I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean? Like people that respect themselves don't just send random messages to people they don't know. This is weird behavior. I would feel so weird just finding a guy that "you have a beautiful smile." It's like, stop it. But now I know, because I value myself and I know what it sounds like when people that value themselves, I know how they speak. I know what it sounds like. I know what it acts like. I know what it does. So when you understand that, you can see it in other people, and then you're going to start to connect. I can't tell you the difference of people in my life now compared to when I wasn't pursuing my real life. And for me, New York City was just a dream for me. You don't have to move to a different city. I could have stayed in Nebraska and done exactly what I'm doing now. I didn't have to be in New York to do it, but it's what my heart's desire was. I felt like I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I knew I need to be here, and being here made me realize why. I've made so many connections. I remember I used to think, I want to know authors and speakers, and how many authors. I mean, I've had so many interactions. Like my coach is now Rachel Luna, and my friend Carol Alwaleba from the Champagne Diet. Like I know so many authors, so many speakers, so many influencers, because I set out to have this life. This is on purpose, because I decided to take an interest in myself and in my life and what my life was supposed to mean and the purpose for it. And once you start to do that, that's when true confidence. So strong and independent doesn't mean confidence and knowing one's worth. I know I keep saying this over and over again, but when you're in this position, you need to hear this over and over again so that you understand that just because you're good at your job and just because you look good on paper doesn't mean that it's just a matter of time for Mr. Right to walk in your life. No, Mr. Right, the guy you really want, is a self-respecting guy that is fulfilling his life's purpose. He's walking in his purpose every single day. He's in the struggle. He is building a life. He's not waiting around. He's not wondering when the girl that's going to make his life better is going to walk in. He's not that's not how we operate when we know our true worth and value. But when we don't know our worth and value, we feel like the guy is the missing piece. And when we walk around feeling incomplete without a guy, it's because we don't know who we are. We don't understand what we bring to the table. And we put that guy on a pedestal. We see it. This is why I stopped doing bachelor snaps. People asked me to do it, and I came back in and did the last one. And I disagree with the whole concept of the show. And I thought, okay, even though I disagree with the concept of the show, we can still see red flags and examples. But then they edit the show to the point where the people, the intent and the tone and everything that was coming across is even wrong. Like, I don't know if Colton and I think it's Cassie are truly happy. They certainly look happy on Instagram. But it's like that even, I just didn't feel like I was able to gauge it correctly because they don't really portray it how it's actually happening. But what they do on the show is they put the guy on the pedestal, and then we hear all of this dialogue from all these women and men on both sides that I've done all this stuff and I'm just ready to meet the person. And there's such an intensity and a focus on, if I just get this, everything's going to be happy and perfect and wonderful. And how many times have we seen the girl or the guy think in that moment, I've found the person, my whole life is going to be incredible. And then almost none of them last, right? Almost none of them. Some of them do. And I'm so glad that at least some of these couples stick around. But I guarantee you the reason that they're sticking around is because they knew who they were before they showed up. But you can see the girls and the guys that have no idea who they are before they come to the show, and they feel like that person, that relationship, that marriage is going to complete their identity. Our identity cannot be in another person. It cannot be in the status of our life, financial or relationship status. Married or not married, you're the same person. Okay? So I believe that when we feel strong and independent as women and we struggle in relationships is because we're attracted to men that appear, they give us that intensity, that excitement. They come with the fairy tale on the front end. They give us the illusion that it's a fairy tale right off the bat. And sometimes it isn't in the form of a bachelor fantasy suite or any kind of a bachelor date. It can just be some really sweet text messages. Sometimes we've lowered ourselves to the point where we can be won over by sweet text messages, where a guy can literally sit there in his underwear at home and work his way into your heart because he can say the right things that create an illusion of fantasy and intensity that also look like a movie. And then we're getting swept off our feet without actually anything real happening. We can go on one amazing date and the guy can do nothing after that, almost put forth zero effort. And we're still trying to get back to that amazing date. That one time we went to the park, that one time we were at that restaurant, we were, on a rooftop, that one time, like he sets an expectation and then we get mesmerized. We get so caught up, and it's because our feet aren't on the ground. We're floating up there thinking that is going to be our happiness. But when you know who you are, you know why you're here, you're in your purpose, you're working, your purpose is going to require work. Okay, like doing this requires that I do a podcast every single week, that I work with my podcast producer, that I also hired Rachel Luna as my coach. Rachel Luna has a team. We meet multiple times a week and discuss strategy and how to send you the right emails, because I'm not going to just send you emails that are, I'm not going to send emails to send emails. I'm like, how can I take care of my girls in a way that is systematic and organized, and so they feel like they're getting what they need from me? So it requires work, right? But it also puts me in a mindset and a mind frame that when a guy messages me and it's super cheesy, like you have a nice smile, it's so weak. And it doesn't even, he's never going to get into my sphere, because that's not, my expectation, my standard is so much higher. And so even if you are getting older, so to speak, you feel like, oh my gosh, Melissa, I have girls, I'm over 30, I'm over 35, I'm over 40, I'm over 50, I'm over 60, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter, because I will tell you personally, I have not lived and dated for very long with a high standard. So even though I'm of a certain age, I haven't had enough time to interact with enough men at my high standard to then meet somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I've just started this process just in the past, maybe even since I've been in New York, 6 years, not quite 5.5 years. I was still developing, still growing. I was still in this process. Only in the last couple of years have I really felt like, okay, now my standard is high. Now I understand what I'm looking for. I've needed some time to become Melissa Ledger. Who is that? I needed time to say, yes, I'm a relationship coach. Yes, I've developed this concept. I used to hide these things about myself. And it's a process. And I am welcoming all of us. So if you feel like you're further along or you're not that far along, wherever you are, this is not about me being the poster girl. I want to say, hey, this is a process and nobody's arrived. And there are married women that did marry good guys, but they didn't know who they were. They did not know their worth and value. And they happened to find a good dude. But what happens to those women? I can tell you, they struggle and they end up in counseling in their marriage. And it doesn't mean their marriage is ending. It actually means they work through it. But I've watched women, I'm like, whoa, so she didn't know who she was. She got lost in the marriage. They didn't divorce, but they weren't having a good time because she would say, I'll just use one example. I felt lost. I felt lonely because I didn't have anything that I liked in my life. And he had his own thing, but I never found my own thing. So then I started to resent him for that. And then I would feel depressed, went to therapy, got a medication for depression because I didn't understand that I didn't really have an identity. And my husband became my identity. Or some women will say, I got married and I had kids and I was a wife and a mom, but then their kids get older and they're like, who am I? I don't even know. And so they have self-worth and self-esteem issues even inside of a marriage. You're not going to escape it getting married. It's going to follow you everywhere until you turn around and go, oh, who the heck am I? And I really believe that God put us all here on this earth for a reason and for a purpose. And that's what we're supposed to be focused on. And yes, we will have friends and we may have a spouse and we may start companies or work for a company, whatever. But there is a reason we're supposed to be here. And I feel like that should be our primary focus. Our primary focus should not be on finding a spouse. You will find a spouse when it's the right time. But I will tell you just from my own personal story that when I look at where I used to be and where I am now, I see the work that I still need to do. And I know at this point that God puts the right person in your life at the right time. And it could mean that I'll always have room to grow, right? But what I'm saying is, I think I used to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to be this perfectly evolved person with no problems and then I'll meet the right guy. But that's not reality. So God will decide, okay, now here's the person that I'm going to put in your life at this point because I wanted you to be at this point in your journey before you met that person. And then it's also like, I think I said this in the last podcast, same for him. God will look at him and go, okay, I want these two together at this point in life, but they need to experience XYZ first. And sometimes it's like, really, God, how long are you going to wait? Like I've told you, I feel like I missed my window to have children on my own because I spent so much time with Gumball guys. At the same time, I spent so much time with Gumball guys. So what does that give me? It gives me the ability to help you. When you coach with me, I know exactly what you're going through. And my last client, she said, Melissa, thank you so much for providing a judgment-free zone. I got through this breakup. And she's like, if I hadn't met you, I wouldn't have gotten through it. And I'm just like, So when I hear that, I'm like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be because I'm helping her. And she needed this and this point in her life because I would love to have her on the podcast to tell the story because she got an amazing opportunity with this huge company. And it's like, oh my gosh, this was really important that she and I work together at this period of time because she has important things to do. And I decided to fulfill my purpose instead of obsessing about finding a guy. And so I'm doing this. And you realize, wow, this makes me really happy to help other women. So what is it that makes you really happy? I think a lot of us don't know. We're like, I didn't know. If somebody would have asked me that 10 years ago, what makes you really happy? I would have sat there like, I don't know. I would have never, 10 years ago, I was looking for a guy and I probably would have said, well, if I get married and have kids, I still thought that that's what was going to make me happy. And so when we're stuck there, we assume that that's the answer and then it isn't. And so we never really figure it out. So my challenge to you is, yes, you're strong and independent, but do you really know what makes you freaking happy? What lights you up? What makes you just like on top of the world? And I'll tell you, for me, the reason that I am so happy is I live in New York City. And for me, that is like every time I land here, no matter where I go, I can even be gone for 24 hours. And when I come back, man, it's like, it's so funny to me. I land in LaGuardia. LaGuardia is a hot mess right now. Doesn't even bother me. The smell of the car exhaust, like immediately you smell like pollution, which is, probably shouldn't smell good to me. And it's not like, this smells like roses, but it's like, there's that grit of New York. And then you step outside and there's traffic and noise and this hustle. And it's like, hurry up and get in your taxi and get your bag in the trunk. And there's just like that boom, 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 energy, energy, energy. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I love that. When I go somewhere else and it's like, oh, it's so relaxed here. I'm like, wah, wah, wah. I get why I needed to be here. So 1, I'm in New York. 2, I always wanted to ballroom dance. I ballroom dance every single week. And I'm learning technique and specific how you put your toe and how you move your hips. And I'm dancing to me. And I'm like, okay, I need another song. Like, I'm constantly doing stuff I love to do. I'm at Central Park having wine and cheese. I'm doing this. I get to do a podcast. I get to have Rachel Luna as my coach. I get to text Kara Alwa-Leba and be like, hey, what's up? Do you want to do a collaboration? Like, I'm going to get her back on this. Actually, I was on her podcast. I need to get her on this podcast, but like, that's available. It's just like, what is my life? So I have figured out, but I'm telling you, like, this is the thing you have to do. You have to figure out what lights you up. So I figured out talking about relationships has always lit me up because it's always confused me. I'm sitting in front of my desk. There's stacks of books that have all been a part of this journey. And I used to be embarrassed about how many relationship books I had because it was like, dude, how many books is this going to take? But you know what? I didn't know. This is your job. This is going to be your job. This is going to be your industry. This is going to be what you do. So this is why you're attracted to it. So you might be attracted to something kind of weird, but that's what it's going to be what you do. And I'll tell you what, I'm super attracted to filmmaking. That's always in the back of my mind. I know I'm going to be a part of or make a movie someday. I just know it because I'm like always listening to directors talk about how they film things and the angles and the lighting. And like, I don't know why. I'm just like, I could go to film school right now and completely enjoy myself. There's so many things I've discovered that I really wanted to do. And I actually did spend a stint in Hollywood. I worked for a film company, left a banking job, worked for a film company for almost a year, just, exploring that. And that's what actually, before I did Gumball Love, I had Gumball Love in my mind, and watching people in the film industry and their creativity and being around writers, I actually was like, I gotta do my own thing now. I need to get away from, this isn't what I want to do. I didn't want to do what they were doing, but watching them create was actually what inspired me to really go forward with the Gumball Love. So do you see, when you start tasting, trying, and allowing yourself to explore, it's just the beginning of really figuring out who you are. And then in figuring out who you are, it's not like it all happens overnight, but gradually you start to live a completely different lifestyle. And then you start surrounding yourself with completely different types of people, the people that really get you. And you're going to have conversations that you can't have with the people that you used to have with anymore. And gradually you start to go into the life that you were meant to live. And so at some point, as you're getting further and further into the life that you're meant to be in, the people and your significant other will just naturally show up because it's just how it works. But do you see how if you don't do any of that and you just focus on finding a guy, you don't know who you are. So you're never going to know if the guy you're with is the right guy. Because all you're focused on is the romance. Oh, it's so romantic. Schmoopy, schmoopy, lovey-dovey. Let me tell you, I make fun of it, but it goes a long way when you don't know who you are. You start looking forward to schmoopy. You plan for schmoopy. You're waiting for schmoopy texts. You're waiting for schmoopy dates. Full-time schmoopy is it's like the struggle is real because it's very alluring. It can be very exciting. But when it's kind of like, everyone loves dessert, right? But when you have, like there's this Italian restaurant here in the city, and they have this one dish that I just love. I get the same thing every time. The way their bread is, and it's like the whole meal is so good. And yes, they have a great dessert, but if I have to pick between that meal or the dessert, I'm picking the meal because it's so much more satisfying. So I want you to think of, yes, we love romance, but that's just the dessert. What's the meal? What's the real thing that life is all about? The real fulfillment, the real, the stuff that's going to sustain you, the stuff that's going to last, the stuff that's going to be really important. And you know what? The stuff that's legacy building. Having a great romance isn't going to build you a great legacy. People are not going to be known. Like when we think of Jennifer Lopez, yeah, we can think of like, she's been married. I don't even know. Is this her fifth engagement? She's like our, modern day Elizabeth Taylor. But when I think of Jennifer Lopez, I think of someone who works their ass off, who constantly is creating music, movies. She's writing, she's directing, she's making stuff happen. She's working her butt off or working on her butt in the gym all the time. I mean, her body is like insane. She's over 50 years old. And it's like, I want to have her body. It's like, and she's, 10 years older than me. So it's like, that's the kind of the legacy. Like if she were to die tomorrow, people are not going to remember her for her marriages. They're going to remember her for her work, for her contribution, they're going to turn on and listen to her music. You know what I mean? We're not going to go look through her family photo albums. We're not. I mean, yes, we acknowledge that she had children and she was married, and we'll remember those pieces of it. But is that her legacy? Are her husbands her legacy? No, it's her work. So, and eventually I don't want to downplay marriage and children, because I also really believe that people, when you marry the right person, and they can be intertwined into your legacy. Like, if I think about Oprah and I think about her work, Stedman, her significant other, he's been, I do think about him, but Oprah's work stands alone without Stedman, right? But he also was such a steady partnership. And she will say, I couldn't have done it without him, because having him as a support system. So he does become part of the legacy. But do you hear what I'm saying? Like, I want you to know you have such an important contribution to make. So does your significant other. Like, I would say the same thing about the dude that's coming into your life. Like, he needs to have his own thing. And then together, you are a powerhouse. This is where the power couple, it's like two independent. And, I feel like with Jennifer Lopez specifically, she was on such a, and I really don't, I did go see her talk, with Hoda Kotb in the 92Y, and just listen to her talk about love and relationships. So this is just kind of my, amateur speculation, but I feel like through her life, she's just been growing so fast. And to be such a powerhouse as she is, she really needed somebody that was her equal and that could really understand her. And not that Mark Anthony wasn't a powerhouse in his own right, but he still doesn't have the mass stardom that Jennifer Lopez does, at least in the US. So please forgive but do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think maybe she felt like, and I even heard her say, she felt like he was going to be the guy for her. And who knows, she could be a total, crazy person in a relationship. But I feel like just for the sake of this conversation, sometimes we're with people that I don't know if we're outgrowing them or we're just going in different directions. And so you're not able to relate anymore. And that's what I want you to think about too, is that when you are growing and developing, or when you haven't even given yourself the chance to grow, when you haven't even given yourself a chance to explore anything, it's like you're in such a high risk of outgrowing a relationship that you would just pick when you're still kind of at an infancy stage of even knowing who you are, or maybe you're at an adolescent stage. But I would say that before we entertain looking for a guy, and I'm talking to just the girls that have dated Gumball guys. If you've had good relationships that have ended for different reasons, then you're not my audience. But those of us that have dated Gumball guys, the ones that we've really gone through a lot of hurt and turmoil, and we're looking for the fantasy, and we've been fooled by the schmoopy romance and the dates and the short-term stuff. It's because we haven't spent enough time on our own. It's because we haven't explored. It's because we haven't grown, and we haven't asked ourselves the right questions, and we haven't had enough time. Girl, give yourself some time to just be you. We're such in a hurry to get back on that dating app. Get off the dating app. Give yourself a few months, even. If I could tell you, give yourself a year. If I could tell you, give yourself 2 years. Depending on if you've really been through it, girl, you need some time. You need some time to just, even if you feel like, okay, I'm doing what I want to do and I'm feeling really good, do that for a while. Get your stability. It's like a baby deer just getting up on its feet for the first time. It's not ready to be chased by a lion. It needs some time to get some stability and some strength and sustain that for a while. So have you given yourself enough time? And like, I just coached my last client, and she's at that point right now. She has her career. She's just crossed over into this new realm. But it's only been 2 weeks since the last contact. So if you're listening, girl, I'm talking to you. It's only been 2 weeks. So you need time to live in that beautiful space that you've created, to live in that life and explore and do your thing. Do your thing for a while. Because when you do your thing for a while, you realize there's a lot more to just doing your thing than doing your thing. There's a lot more to it. Your environment changes, your friends change, the way you want to live your life changes, and you want to get to a point where you really see, okay, this is the life that I really want. And the lifestyle that I want to be used to. So if I start dating somebody that's much beneath my socioeconomic status, you date somebody that doesn't make the kind of money you do, or doesn't have the kind of lifestyle, it's hard. In fact, in one of the previous couple podcasts, I think it was Holly and Justin. Justin was like, yeah, don't date somebody who is not comparable to where you live your lifestyle, because it's just out of sync. It's very difficult. So when you're on the growth pattern, it's important that, look, I'll use myself as an example again. Like, when I was living the life I was back in Nebraska, it wasn't how I envisioned my life at all. So now I'm living in New York City. Now I have this lifestyle, which guys in New York City understand, right? There are certain men that completely know and don't even bat an eye at the amount of rent I pay, the kind of lifestyle where I'm investing my money into coaching, into building my business. I need to be with somebody that understands that. And it would be much harder for me to find that in the Midwest. It's, but in New York City or in a big city, you have a lot of entrepreneurs. You have a lot of people networking. You have a lot of people that understand what you're doing. And so even guys excluded, I needed people that understood what I was doing so that I wasn't always getting the, whoa, what are you doing? Even like when I was younger and I decided to spend my sophomore year in Japan, everyone in my small Nebraska town told me I was crazy. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself because I went from the Midwest in an all-white town to being one of the few white girls in a school of like 1,500 kids. And I was immersed in diversity, culture. I mean, it was like, talk about culture shock, because it was all cultures. It was this military base with all these different kids from, all the military guys that had married women from all these other countries were all together. And it was amazing. It was a huge adjustment because I had to learn about all of this. So I had no idea. I'd just been in a small town in the Midwest until I was 15 years old. And then when I came out of that, guess what happened to me? I had been gone from the US for 1 year. And I came back and I had like 50 people met me at the airport. It was crazy. I remember walking in going, oh my gosh, my family, my friends, everyone was so happy to see me. And I remember I wanted to go to Taco Bell because we didn't have Taco Bell, and it was in Okinawa. And then when I got home and everybody left, I cried. And my mom was like, what's the matter? And I was like, everybody's changed. And she goes, no, honey, you've changed. And it was like, oh, just the way that they spoke. And I could see how my whole mind had expanded. I realized, I'd been living in the South Pacific for a year. Like I didn't fit there anymore. And so I still have a lot of those friends today, but I don't fit into that lifestyle. When I go back to Nebraska, I do not fit there. As much as my Nebraska family would love for me to move back. And I miss them terribly too, but I know I don't fit because I need what's here. I need diversity. I need culture. And so, but when you force yourself to be in a place where you're not around your people, it kills your spirit. So I hope you're understanding that just finding one person to marry is not going to make everything better. In fact, I feel like we said before, even if you find the right partner, if you don't do the work, I shouldn't even say the right partner, even if you find a good guy who will not cheat on you, he'll be great to you, your marriage isn't going to be great if you don't figure out who you are. It's so important. So I want you to be encouraged. If you're in a relationship or you're not. If you're with a Gumball guy and you're like, Melissa, I'm listening to your podcast. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not ready to leave. That's okay. I get it. It's not thank you for telling me I have a Gumball guy. I'm going to leave today. It doesn't work that way. It's a process, right? This is a process. So what I want you to do is just start looking at what you love. I want you to look around. What books are you buying? What podcasts do you download? What kind of furniture do you like? When you pop open a news app and you scroll past the top headlines and then there's like random categories, which one stands out? What do you YouTube? What YouTube videos do you read the comments about? And this is not going to be just one thing. It's going to be lots of stuff. For me, my weird stuff is aliens, conspiracy theories. Sometimes when I'm like bored of everything else, or not really bored, but I just need something different, I'll go down some conspiracy theory rabbit holes. I'm also very interested in health and how to have optimum performance in my body and getting in shape and like how I can have the right supplements. So I can really read a lot about that stuff. Do I want to read about botany? No. but maybe you do. Maybe you like plants or you're obsessed. I have a guy I met on a plane. Brandon, if you're listening, Brandon and I sat next to each other. He's obsessed with plants. Plants are his life. And I love watching his Instagram because it's like all about plants, and his Instagram is just beautiful. It's just like, I love watching his passion for it. And I do like plants, but not like he does. So I'm not going to be reading books about it, but I guarantee you he is. So who are you? Do you know? Because there's all kinds of little clues. You're sneaking around doing stuff, and then you're setting things down that you need to pick back up. You're thinking about stuff that you never really do. I'll tell you one thing I think about, and I never do it, I should do it today, is freaking pottery. Like, am I ever going to have my moment from the movie Ghost where I want a potter's wheel, I want it in my house, and I want to sit there and make pot. I don't even have those kinds of pots, but I want to know if I will like it. That's something I don't do yet. But I did want to paint. So I bought the paints and I bought the canvas, and every once in a while I'll sit down and paint. I want to paint in a park. Haven't done that yet. So freaking hot. I'm not going to do it today. But it's like, what are these little thoughts? You need to go do it. Go try it. And stop thinking that some dude in your living room is going to give you all this fulfillment. Yeah, it's nice when he's the right guy, but think about when you meet the right person that you're in your groove, you found your frequency, you're doing what you love every day, you're actually happy. Imagine meeting somebody in that space. Then it's so much easier to manage the relationship, because when you look at relationships and marriages, I always look at people in marriage counseling and listen to what they go to counseling for. It's kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. So if I do XYZ, I'm not going to be in counseling with my husband for that, because this is a lot of times what couples are in counseling for is stuff that existed before they were married. It's expectations, it's lack of communication, it's I didn't realize I was like that, it's things like self-awareness. I mean, there's just all this stuff that creates unhappiness. It creates, I'll just tell you, since I've done all this work on myself, there's so many times where I'm like, wow, that would have totally made me a freak before, and now I'm just sitting here saying nothing. It's so freaking great. So nice to have control, so nice to have awareness. I still have work to do, we all do. But it's stuff that I'm like, wow, I'm glad that part of me is ironed out, because that would have been tough for somebody to deal with in a relationship. And now that's not there. And that's awesome. And I love me more because I worked on that. And now I'm not going to burden somebody else with my crap that I didn't work on. So our job is to figure ourselves out, work on our crap, and understand that it's never going to be fully done, and that the right person will come when they are supposed to be here. But if you're not having a really good time living and you're not really happy with who you are, then that's all your job is. Keep going, keep figuring it out, keep going one foot in front of the other. And if you have to cry, and if you have to be like, but Melissa, I just want to be married, I just want to have kids. I mean, isn't it? Yeah, it's perfectly normal to want those things. Look, I wanted those things. I still want that. I still want to be married, and I still want to have children. I don't know how the kids part is going to happen for me, because, like I say, there's only so many shopping days before Christmas. I feel like the biology might work against me, but I don't know. God is a big God. Or I also feel like as I've grown, that adoption is something I think about too. It's one of those things that's always in my mind. So why am I thinking about adoption? Don't even have anybody, I may not be able to have children on my own, but then I think, well, if you're thinking about adoption, then that means there's a child that's mine out there that's going to be mine at some point. And I don't want to have a child without a significant other or without a husband. I won't do it by myself. I shouldn't say never, but unless if I found that child and I really felt like I was supposed to do it, then I would do it. I mean, I felt that with the 3 dogs I've owned. Like I knew they were my dogs. Every time, look at 100 dogs, look at the one. My sister sent me a picture of Charlie. I had just lost Emma a week before. And I would look at other dogs, but it was just like, no, my heart was so broken. It was like, I am not ready for a dog. She had sent me a picture and I got it in the morning and I sat up in bed and my sister's like, did you look at it with Superman eyes with lasers? And I was like, totally Superman eyes. I was like, and I just was like, and then my first thought was, oh no, this is my dog. And I was like, I'm not ready. But it was like, this is her. I knew that Charlie was mine. And so then I went from like, and it wasn't that I didn't want her, but I was just like so heartbroken over Emma that I was like, oh, my heart's still hurting. And I can't, like, having her made me feel emotional because it was like so soon, yet she was my groomer so perfectly said that when you get a puppy or a kitten after you've lost someone, they don't replace it, but they fill the cracks in your broken heart. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So it's like your little broken heart pieces have your dog that's passed away, little names on it. And then all the cracks are filled with the new dog and it like slowly heals your heart. And then the two come together. And it was just like, how sweet is that? And that's exactly what she's done for me. I look at Charlie and I'm like, I guess you're my dog. 'Cause she even, I don't know, 7-8 months later since I've had her, it's still kind of like, is this my dog? It's like, I'm still not used to having her yet because I've been used to my other dog for, almost 12 years. So, but what I'm saying is I'm going to know, I will know if there's a child that needs a home and it's assigned to me, then I'll do it. So, and then when I meet that child, I'm going to understand why I didn't have my own. You know what I mean? Like God has a plan. And I think he's sometimes like, oh, if you just understood what I have for you, you would just not be so sad about what's going on right now. Just do what I'm telling you. Trust. It's going to work. So just trust it. Like the people that had the perfect marriage and the kids at the right time, they don't have a perfect life either. Nobody does. They all have, it would be so cool if we could just like trade places and just see it and feel it. And then we would go, oh yeah, I guess, I mean, it looks nice and it's not bad, but I guarantee you would want your old life back. You really don't want that. You want your life because it's what you are meant to be in. Okay? So to put a bookend on this, you can be strong and you can be independent because I know that you are strong and I know that you're independent. But I just need you to know who you are, what you're here to do, and get on about doing it. And do not put deadlines on your marriage or your having children. Like you cannot put a timeline on it. Throw away the timeline. You don't know when it's going to happen. So stop timing it by birthday milestones. Like, oh my gosh, I'm 30. Oh my gosh, I'm 35 and this isn't happening. It's like, okay, well, if you're with a guy and you're 35 years old and he's like, I don't want to get married, then you gotta let that go. If you're not having fun, you're not enjoying yourself with him, you're not, you know what I mean? Like we have to make decisions that are like, okay, this is not congruent. I am no longer happy. I am no longer living the life that I want to live. So I've got to move on. We have to make the decisions that we know maybe they're hard. Maybe we don't really want to do it, but we know it's the right decision and it's pushing past that. It's exhilarating. You want to get the high. Tell you what, start pursuing your dreams. Start taking some risks. And then you'll see like, it's pretty freaking fun. And I want you to experience that so that when you meet somebody, you're smiling, you're happy, you're fulfilled. And when you meet a healthy guy, he's going to be like, man, this chick is freaking awesome because she's so happy. And he's going to just enjoy you and you're going to enjoy him. And then you're just going to live life together and experience things. And he's going to help you and you're going to help him and you're going to have a partner. And that's it. It's going to be awesome. So I want you to have positive expectation, but also laser focus on what you're supposed to do and start small. I'm going to end it on how I started. What did I start doing? My first thing I started admitting is that I like classical music. And then I realized over time, I do like classical music, but I like movie score classical music first. I mean, I know this is like, okay, who cares, Melissa? This is so boring. But for me, I was like, why do I like movie scores? Well, I like movie scores because I like filmmaking. And so it just led. But do you see how just one, is it classical music? What do I really like? Because I spent some time like pretending that I really like traditional classical. And then it was like, yeah, I really don't like this. And I also cannot stand a live band. So I can now say, is there live music there? Yeah. Okay. I'm out. If like a band where it's too loud and I don't want to, sorry. I know most people like live music, but for me, it's like, I'd rather be in a library reading. So dorky, but it's who I am. So then I started going to bookstores more because, and I need to go to bookstores more still. I love a freaking bookstore. I love buying a new journal. All that stuff it makes me geek out. What are these things for you? It's so fun to start exploring it. I love little dainty flowers. And I was thinking I need to go buy violets because I started buying violets. I was in the flower store. Like, what is it that I really like in here? And you feel kind of weird because you're like, wow, I really have no idea what I like. So you have to go, do I really like that? I think I do. Do I want that in my house? And then a lot of stuff you have to try. And then you'll be like, yeah, I guess. Like I tried to decorate, even in this apartment, I thought I wanted French country. I had look at French country online. But when I actually had French country decor, I hated French country. It was like, nope, I like modern with the touch of glam and some warmth and books and candles. And so I figured it out, but it took me a while. So I'm looking at the clock. We are almost 1 hour and 11 minutes. This is so crazy. I've got like 20 seconds left. So I'm going to end this on 1 hour and 11 minutes. 111. It's my lucky number. I hope this helped you. I hope that you are inspired. Please let me know what you explore. I'm dying to know. I love getting messages from you, text messages, emails, Melissa@Gumball and please at gumballove.com. And please leave a review. You guys, I need some fresh reviews on the podcast. So if this is helping you, let me know and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So until next time, I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough. You are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.